As y'all can see, I got a nice little trailer set up for the kayak. I got the kayak set up with a trolling motor going through the pod. I got a little place where I actually put my catch board holder, measuring board holder. I got a DIY stakeout pole. I got a lot going on here, and the reason for that is I just entered my first kayak fishing tournament. It was a disaster. My first kayak fishing tournament. So, I don't know, man. Pretty much everything that could go wrong went wrong, and some ways that I couldn't think could go wrong went wrong. But figured I'd share my experience. I was gonna have footage. It's a month-long tournament. KBF Knucklehead tournament. It's not a super serious tournament. You can actually bank fish in it. I'll probably make a video just about that. I don't want to spend too much time talking about that in this video, but it's not a super serious tournament, and I thought that'd be a great tournament to start out in and just get used to the process of just measuring a fish. I just bought a catch board. It's actually in the trunk, but I just bought that. You know, I had this all rigged out. I've been working on the trailer and the kayak, getting it all ready because I wanted to do more tournaments and stuff. I haven't really done that on the channel, and but when I have done tournaments, I think I've been in a total of 7, 8. I've been in a total of 9. Been in a total of 9 tournaments, and I think I have 7 top 10 finishes, but not a single in the top 5. So 6 through 10 is where I usually am in tournaments, and so I'm a consistent angler, but I don't win tournaments. Now 10 tournaments isn't a lot of tournaments, but I guess this would be my 11th. And at one point I was in 8th place. I actually caught an 18.5 incher. It was about 18.25, right? And I had already caught an 18.25 another day on the same body of water, which makes me wonder if it was the same bass. And I had already caught an 18.25, but it was like the smallest of slivers of hairs before 18.5. And I'm like, I can't call this 18.5 because it's just not quite touching, right? So, but then the next time I come out, I catch a bass like the same exact size, and I'm like, man, if it only touched. And I started holding the fish down back towards the tail, and all of a sudden the tail touched 18.5. I was like, oh shoot, it's touching 18.5. Let me take a picture. You're not supposed to have your hand in that spot of the bass near the back of the tail. So actually I had 3 fish measured that day that put me into like 8th place that were disqualified. They didn't count. So a lesson learned there. So, but that was the point of this tournament for me, is to figure out those things. And hold on a second, I'm gonna wait till this car is done. All right, so I was saying like 3 of my bass got DQ'd. It took me from like 8th place to, actually I think it only took me back to like 10th place, but those 3 didn't count. And so yeah, but you know what, that's kind of the point of these tournaments, is to learn those things. And because I read the rules and everything, but for some reason my mind was emphasizing the hand not being near the gill. So when I moved towards the tail, I was like, oh, I'm still legal. I'm still legal. So I'm dumb. Lesson learned. And but that is what's good about these tournaments. And what's good is they're month-long tournaments. So you can make mistakes like that and still bounce back. Like I was still confident that I was going to catch 5 fish over 18.5 inches. And I actually stopped fishing the 10th. It's a month-long tournament for the month of April. They are going to have other tournaments for other months, but it's for the month of April. So I was only about a third of the way through the tournament. And in my opinion, I didn't really have a single fish that was worthy of my top 5. You know, I wanted to catch fish over 20 inches, and I felt like I haven't looked at the leaderboard, but I probably needed to catch fish over 20 inches to even end up being in the top 5, like all 5 fish. So, but what's good about a tournament like this is you can you have time to bounce back with that kind of stuff. So why did I stop fishing on the 10th, you know, a third of the way through the tournament? Well, I broke my kayak. That's one of the many reasons. Let me just show you. See right there, up against the wall, there's a crack. Yep, broke my kayak right behind the scissors. Big old crack. And then on this side, down in that corner against the edge there, another crack. I mean, you can also see it looks like someone chewed on my propeller. That didn't stop me from fishing, but it's just one of the many things that I've dealt with during this tournament. So yeah, cracked my kayak pretty good. I can fix that, and I am gonna fix that. Eventually, I actually want to sell this kayak, but I'm definitely gonna have to fix it before I fish with it again and before I sell it. Actually, with this tournament, you could win a kayak, and it's actually kind of random. So technically, even though I'm not doing well in this tournament, I could still win a kayak, which would be so awesome. Like, every time there's a free kayak situation, I'm like, oh my God, please, baby Jesus. So yeah, I'm definitely hoping that I'm gonna win the kayak. I definitely have plans to join all the other monthly long KBF Knucklehead stuff just for that reason, to really just win a kayak, because it's pretty rough fishing with this kayak sometimes. Now, I will say, I'm gonna make a video about this, like my final review video about this. I might have to post a video just on the fact that I broke the kayak, just to let people know, because I have a number of subscribers that are subscribed to me just for the simple reason that I have this kayak. And so I think I need to make those videos, and I need to make videos about this pod, this trolling motor pod, this kayak trailer, but I'm gonna make some adjustments to this kayak trailer. These PVC pipes, so you can see, they're up above on the utility trailer. I actually need to drop them down in the cage, because I actually gave myself a hernia. So it was about the second time I was fishing in this tournament, and I was done. I was ready to get off the water. The sun was whooping my butt. I actually, oh shoot, that might have been the first day I was fishing. So my battery actually died on me. I was on the other end of a lake. This thing is like the worst paddling kayak on the market. You do not want to have to paddle this. And I had it completely loaded up, and I had to paddle it from the far end of this lake back to the boat ramp, and it took hours. I only caught 13-inch bass while I was out there, and it killed me. And by the time I got back to the boat ramp, I was not trying to unload everything and take my time and take 40 minutes to load up my car, walk back and forth, and then take the, slowly get the kayak up to the trailer and this and that. I just backed the dang trailer down the boat ramp, and I told myself this isn't how I'm gonna load it because it sits so high, but I was like, I'm doing it. I'm just gonna use my strength, get it up there, and I'm out of here. And obviously take the things that I need to take off the kayak off, but I was trying to get it up the boat ramp. And so what ended up happening is I gave myself a hernia because it's so high and it had so much weight on it. It's weird. When it's completely loaded up, it felt like the hull was filled with water. It felt like a gazillion pounds, because I'm not weak. I'm not trying to sit here and brag, oh, I'm so strong, but I'm really not weak. And I can lift this like nothing with nothing in the kayak, but it felt like a completely different kayak with the battery and the trolling motor and just loaded up. It felt like a completely different beast. And I ended up giving myself a hernia, and I didn't even know I gave myself a hernia. That's the crazy thing, is it wasn't until like later in the day I was like, man, my stomach is hurting. And I knew it was hurting from when I lifted it up, but I didn't realize I gave myself a hernia until I felt that lump there. I said, oh my goodness, I gave myself a hernia. But it's not like a bad hernia. I definitely can't get in any fights, which I wasn't worried about anyways. My fighting days are long over. Unless something crazy happens and I have to. But I figured, man, like, so anyways, I got the hernia loading this bad boy. So before I make a trailer video about this, I gotta lower it down and make some other adjustments. But this trailer is pretty awesome aside from how high it sits at the moment. So that would be a cool video to make. But I gave myself a hernia at the very beginning of this tournament, and then after that, I drove down to Lake Toho because I saw that they were fishing really big down there, and I never fished there before, and it was like 30-mile-per-hour winds. So I got back into a canal. I caught a 15-incher nice little spot I found. And on my way out, so on the way in, there's this dock. I'm like, I'm gonna hit that on the way back out, because I felt like it was a timing thing. The chop was just starting to get bigger. I feel like any of the bass that are out there on the main water that aren't back in here and like on beds, they'll come back in here. And so that was kind of my thing. It was more of a timing thing. And so I actually went back in there, caught a 15-incher. It might have been a good sized male. And so I'm like, okay, all right, no females. I'm going to hit that dock on the way back out. No joke, I turned the corner and the dock is not far from me, right? But it's on the left side. There's a bass boat coming in and he's on that side, but he's further away, but he's moving faster than me. So I get over to the right thinking he's gonna go by me. He pulls right up to that boat ramp. I said, dang, not boat ramp, to that dock. And I said, dang. I said, I don't know the ethics here. Should I just wait for him to fish it and then fish it? I was like, no, I probably should just go past him. I was like, I guess I'm not fishing that. He pulls out this little tiny spinning rod, tossed on there, pulls out this giant bass, and it gets off. And I'm like, dude, how is he gonna catch? Was he fishing for crappie? How is he gonna catch it with that little tiny spinning rod underneath that dock? And so I'm sitting there going, I'm looking at my 7'11", extra heavy, extra fast, big old broomstick that I was about to toss under there, and there ain't no way I wasn't gonna be able to horse that bass out of there. And I was just like, man, you gotta be kidding me. But as soon as I got out on the main water, the chop was crazy and I had to get out of there. So I went back to the boat ramp. And so my Lake Toho experience was very short-lived. And I missed out on a giant that, well, who knows if I would have actually linked up with it, but I think I would have, I think I would have. And so that happened. I started fishing Lake Rousseau. It's actually not far from me. It's less than an hour from me. There's a lot. I don't know if it's top 10 places to fish in Florida. Like it used to fish really big. There's a number of people that have caught, trophy bass out of there, especially with golden shiners, live bait. But what I like about Rousseau is the fact that there's depth. There's 40-foot spots, there's stumps, there's a river, there's shallow water, there's parts of the water that only kayaks can get to. There's obviously hydrilla in Florida, there's eelgrass. You kind of have everything. You have ledges. So I thought like, oh wow, like I didn't realize how cool Rousseau was. Like it's the sort of place, like if I want to get more serious about fishing tournaments and even do some traveling and stuff, like this place is close to me and I can fish it and I can get practice on fishing a lot of different situations, especially for Florida. Like a lot of these lakes don't get like much deeper than 9 feet. You know what I mean? So like having 40-foot spots, you can practice deep cranking, throwing a Carolina rig, whatever you want to do, drop shot. And so I just thought, wow, like there's so much here and I always feel like I'm missing out. Like I can outfish a lot of people that aren't from Florida when they come to Florida because I know how to fish Florida. But if I start traveling, I'm going to get, my pants taken off me because I don't have, it's been a long time since I've practiced on those northern lakes and those different types of bodies of water. And so I was like, this is kind of cool. I can fish this place and get kind of a variety. So I fished there 3 times and the third time was very short-lived because that's when the kayak broke. And that was the first time I got out there early in the morning and the kayak broke. I also, my rod leash, it ripped and broke. I noticed it was starting to rip and I just ignored it. I felt like, oh man, it's starting to rip. I'm gonna have to replace that, but I didn't think it was gonna break immediately. Well, my net fell in the water, right? And so I'm reaching for it, but I was like cruising. So I'm reaching for it. The drag of the water on the net broke the rest of the leash. It's like neoprylon or whatever the heck that material is. It broke and my net sunk to the bottom. So I lost my net, my good net, my best net. I said, oh my goodness, I'm just having all kinds of luck with this tournament. And then the day that I broke my kayak, on the way up to the boat ramp, somehow my rod leash, well, my leash that's connected to my paddle, and my paddle was wedged in under my kayak. On the drive up there, it was dark. Apparently the dang paddle flew out the dang kayak, which I mean, luckily there's no one on the road. I'm thinking that's what happened. Hopefully no one snatched it out of the kayak, which is also possible, because the rod leash is still completely intact. So I'm like, I don't understand how that happened. Now, in the past, I have always had it in the car. Definitely in the future, I'll have it in the car. But long story short, the first 2 times I was at Roussel, I was just kind of exploring. Once I went to this boat ramp and I explored going up to the right in a few places. The next time I explored going up to the left in a few places. And all the biggest bass I actually caught in deep water. And I don't have electronics, so I was kind of blind casting, but that's where I caught the bigger fish. But I did see a really big bass and a lot of like medium-sized males back in a shallow area that only kayaks can go to. And I said, you know what, if I come there early and I buzz something across the top of this hydrilla, because it's pretty choked out back in there, because I went back in there right before I left the second time, I think, or was it the first time I was there? Anyways, I caught like 3 or 4 bass. I mean, actually I caught probably more than that, but some small ones that I didn't measure, and I was catching them pretty quickly. In an hour and a half span, I was catching a number of fish back in there. And so I said, all right, you know what, I'm gonna come back in here in the morning in a low light situation. Maybe I can get one of these big females to bite 20 something inch bass, because I saw a big one back in there. And so I'm like, all right, that's my plan. I'm gonna go back in there. Well, the last time I was there, my trolling motor was able to run through it, and I got pretty far back in there before I had to switch the paddle, and then I had to switch. I was able to switch back to the trolling motor and get the most of the way out of there, and then back to the paddle, get out. Okay. Well, anyways, I didn't realize that my paddle had flew off until I was back in there. So I got stuck back in there for like 40 minutes because I went back as far as I could with the trolling motor, but then I was like, okay, now I have to switch to the paddle. Oh shoot, where's my paddle? So it was just like one thing after another. I haven't taken the kayak out much since I've got it, not nearly as much as I should have, and it was mainly because of my trailer situation. But I finally got the trailer usable, but it's still, obviously I need to do more to it, drop it down, and make it that much better. So a third of the way through this kayak tournament, it's like, okay, I'm done. Like, I was already feeling kind of guilty because I haven't been watching my daughter those days. Not that I have to, because I have my wife's parents and my mom and my stepdad. They all want to watch her. So they usually try to watch her, or they want to watch her about 3 days out of the week. So that gives me some time to go fishing and on those days. And so, but I like spending time with my daughter. I like watching her. And so I was sitting there going, I was thinking, I'm gonna finish. I was really positive that day that the kayak broke too. It was weird. Usually I wish I was that positive more often, but I was super positive going into that tournament. I was getting out there super early. I was launching quite a little bit before the sun came up. I was loaded, ready to go, and I was ready to rock and roll. And then that was the day that it was just like a series of things happened. And in the back of my head, I think I was feeling a little guilty that I wasn't spending the day with my daughter, even though my wife was watching her that day. She was off that day. But so I don't know. It is what it is, and I'm gonna fix the kayak, but I think I'm done for this month. And because I'm the type of person, I'll force it. I'll still I'll fight through things, and I'll just keep going at it as much as I possibly can, and I'll grind out 5 fish, no problem. And frankly, I could go to ponds, because you can bank fish in this tournament, and I know I could be in the top 3, because I got places where I can catch 25 plus inch bass, which is insane. That's nuts, and I can go catch them. But I don't know what's legal waters. So I don't want to fish any bank fishing in these tournaments. The point of the tournaments is to kayak fish, even though bank fishing is allowed. So I want to kayak fish. I want to get better at kayak fishing. And I learned a lot of hard lessons this month. So I feel like I may not have done well in the tournament, but I learned lessons that I needed to learn the hard way, unfortunately. So Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't lose like my catch board or a rod, because like that's the only thing that didn't happen. I feel like, and knock on wood, knock on wood. That's the only thing that didn't happen, and yeah. But you know what? It's part of the journey, right? It's part of the journey. So just thought I'd share my kayak experience on the water this month. This my first tournament. Definitely didn't go as planned, and yeah. But I have a lot of things going on also that I'm juggling. I'm trying to freelance video edit for people. I'm working on a website. I'm working on another website as well. I also just bought like a bunch of bait molds, and I've been trying to perfect making baits and stuff like that, and I don't have any of my baits perfected yet, so that's something I'm still working on. And then I've been busy obviously with my daughter. I'm the one that's watching her most of the time, and so been really busy, and I'm trying to juggle all those things and fish my first kayak tournament. And so yeah, it takes up some time, and I'm just like, all right. And now it's Florida though, so like I could have 1-2 good days, and all of a sudden I'm sitting in first, second place or something like that. So and that's kind of the mentality I had the day I broke my kayak, is like, all you gotta do is catch one giant today, and you're back in this. And then I broke the kayak, and it was just like, okay, maybe. And later that day, my daughter said I love you to me. She's only 5 months old. She said I love you twice to me. It's the first time she spoke. And so it's kind of like one of those situations where you're like, okay, God works in mysterious ways. And I tend not to say that. I feel like it can be overused. I'm not a super religious person. I believe in God, but I couldn't tell you if everything is planned, if it's destiny, or if there's free will, so it doesn't work that way. I couldn't tell you. I don't even try to bother trying to figure that out. My head would explode. But it definitely felt like one of those situations where I was smiling, like, my kayak broke. Okay, I guess this tournament thing's done. I can just watch my daughter more. I guess that's what's more important. And surprisingly, I wasn't even upset. I was just like, okay. And then sure enough, like later that day, my daughter said I love you. So it was and that same day, I've been a lifelong Washington, they're now called Commanders, fan. The worst owner in all of sports, Daniel Snyder, has apparently sold the team. It's just the ink isn't dry yet on it, but they announced that day. So it was kind of like one good thing after another, after obviously a really bad thing. So it was a very it was a memorable day. So yeah, but that made me go. My kayak first kayak tournament is over. So yeah, just thought I'd share all this. I know some of you care out there. If you watch till the end, hey, I appreciate you. Comment below. I would love to know that you enjoyed watching this video and just wanted to know what happened. And I feel like it's kind of therapeutic in a way to really kind of share your breakdown of things. I don't know if I'll do videos like these more often, but I might. Hopefully the next kayak tournament fishing video I'll do will have tons of action with filming, me catching fish and all that good stuff, and it'll be a cool video for y'all. But at the same time, I am trying to edit for other YouTubers, so I might end up becoming really busy. I do have a ton of DIY stuff for this kayak and the trailer, and I have like 3 new fishing combos that I could make videos about. So I have a lot of videos that don't involve a lot of video filming and editing, me more explaining stuff that I think I need to post before I get back into doing some intensive video filming and editing. But yeah, that's my first tournament experience. I rambled long enough. Appreciate y'all. I'm out. Peace.